Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Mighty Brad's podcast. Today I got my buddy Kevin.
How's it going?
Today we're going to talk more about a lot of spiritual concepts. We're going to talk about some other stuff too, but mainly concepts relating to spirituality. So I wanted to start with a little analogy that I took from someone named Wayne Dyer, he was a very spiritual teacher, and I enjoy listening to a lot of his talks and stuff like that. And he made an analogy about an orange. So it sounds stupid, but it makes a lot of sense. So he's like, okay, when you squeeze or you break an apple, what comes out?
Juice.
Right. And it's specifically apple juice, right? Because it's from an apple. And a peach juice, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So he was like, but when you squeeze an orange juice comes out, right? Not apple juice, not peach juice, orange juice. Why? Because that's what's inside, right?
Yeah.
That's what's inside the orange. So, relating that to human beings, when somebody squeezes you, when somebody does something you don't like, says something bad about you, does something to try and piss you off, and presses you like that, what emotions come out of you? Is it anger? Is it frustration? Or is it calmness? Is it, I'm able to handle this situation calmly and stuff like that? And it gives you a perspective and an opportunity to learn about yourself. Is when someone's trying to piss me off, how do I react to it?
Yeah.
And you can choose. You always have a choice. You can choose to react with anger, and you can choose to react calmly. Everything in life is a choice, despite us knowing it or not.
Yeah. I agree.
So it's stuff like that just gives you an opportunity to learn about yourself. And so I just wanted to start off by asking you, what kind of got you into spirituality and stuff like that?
All right. Well, I feel like for the longest time, since elementary school, middle school, I would sit there and I'd be in class and I was always confused. I was always like, what is this? What is going on? I never really cared for school. I always just wanted to go out in the world and like do stuff. Whether it be like traveling or just going to an island and just doing fun things. Like that was always in my head. I'm like, I don't want to be in this classroom right now. I couldn't stand it. But what really got me into it is probably psychedelics, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say my psychedelic journey started in senior year of high school.
Okay.
And yeah, you want to go more into that?
If you want to expound on it, it's up to you.
Sure. Yeah, so I took a couple of trips into realizing I was with my friend Sam and we were in my house and we were having a really good night. And we were tripping and trying to get deep in our minds and also enjoying a good time, and we were having a really good time together, really happy and everything. And then I went into my bathroom and I just was quiet and I was alone and I was with myself and it's cold in here.
Yeah.
And I feel like my true identity kind of came out. Like I looked at my feet and I saw myself as weird as it sounds, I saw myself as like a frog.
Okay.
And I took that as a sign of like just transformation, because they're like amphibian, or what's that word? They're tadpoles, and then they become like this frog, and it's like a whole. In spirituality, I think a frog is like transformation.
Right.
It was funny because I actually that's how I saw myself, and something just like clicked in me, and I just was like I'm everything.
Right.
I'm it. Like I feel like something in me just opened up.
Yeah. That
just changed everything. And I have a friend who kind of experienced this before I did, and he was always trying to talk to me about it, and I was like, what are you crazy, man? Like, what are you talking about? Like, you don't want to listen to it. But once you kind of get welcomed into it, then you feel it truly, like, you can't let it go.
Yeah.
So that's how I kind of started getting really into it.
Right. So before that, would you say like you were more closed-minded, and when someone would talk about it, you'd just be like, whatever?
Yeah. I grew up in I have two older sisters. So my parents were kind of more I don't know if I would say strict, but it was much more conservative in a way growing up
Right.
compared to as they got older and as I got older. So I wasn't really, I feel like I was more subjected to like a limited mindset growing up. And I only knew like one way of life, but then I was introduced to like more perspective, I feel like.
Right.
I kind of can't remember the question so much now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think I told you when we first met, but yeah, the thing that, I can't even explain it, but how I got into it is just, I was at a really low point in my life with depression and stuff like that, and then once I realized that I wanted to change my life for the better, and I started doing simple things like going to the gym, running, physical exercise, and just working on my mental health a little bit, I realized that there's so much out there that I don't know, and so much stuff and perspectives that could help me get out of that dark place in my life.
Yeah.
And that's where I just kind of, like, probably what happened with you is at a point it just you're the way your brain works, it just flips.
Exactly,
it just changes. And there's not really any way for me to explain it other than that. It's like, I don't want to say it was one exact second, but it was like just this short time period where just everything flipped and I saw the world differently.
Yeah.
Which is, it's crazy. I mean, I can't even explain why or how exactly.
You just have to feel it.
Exactly. It's a feeling that just kind of comes over you and it kind of just happens.
Exactly. And I feel like when you put yourself in a mindset where you want to do better and you're kind of like welcoming something like that, that's when it comes.
Yeah.
I feel like you need to get past a lot of limitations within your mind.
Exactly.
You can't be like, I'll never move on, or I'll never get this, or I'll never. If you limit yourself, you're stuck and you're closed, and a lot of people are closed. I feel like a lot of people are afraid of that.
Yeah, I mean that goes hand in hand with, you can't help someone that doesn't want to be helped because they have this belief, that these limiting beliefs that they are this way and they can't be, and their life is just going to stay this way. Everything sucks, and no matter what you do, no matter what you say, it's like, if they have that belief, you're not going to be able to do anything to help them.
I agree.
So, having said that, I want to ask you a little bit about, I like to talk about gratitude a lot and be like, all right, sometimes I wake up in the morning and I'll just be like, all right, I'm grateful to be alive. How important do you think gratitude is for everyone?
It is very important. So I work at a restaurant here in Boca, and I love it a lot. I love the people I work with. I've been working there since 2 weeks since I moved here.
Okay.
Oh, that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so 2 weeks after I moved here, I started working there. So that's been like a year and a half I've been there. And it is just, they're like my family down here. I'm a server now. I've been a food runner the past year, so I used to work in the kitchen. I used to work with other cooks. I used to work with the dishwashers, and they experience the hardest jobs more than anybody, I feel like. Food running was tough, but these dishwashers gotta be quick. They're getting sweaty, they're getting dirty, they're getting water on them. And a lot of them ride their bikes to work and then ride home. And the other day, actually, before in a pre-shift meeting, I said to everybody, I was like, be grateful that we are in this position as servers, making good money, clean, just talking to people. I'm like, stop complaining about shit, because they come in every day, these cooks and these dishwashers, and they're smiling and they're so happy to be there and they're so happy to go to work. And I was like, when I look at them and I talk to them, like, I'm really close with all of them and I love them. Like, they're like my family too, and we get along really well and we know each other. And when they come into work and I see how happy they are just to be there, I'm like, how could I go home in my car to my nice apartment, to my nice friends in this beautiful area, and be pissed off about things? Right. And obviously everybody has their own fair share of shit. Yeah. People got their own internal problems. I have my problems. You have your problems. You have your problems. But that's the thing. It's like, you just gotta be appreciative of something. Being appreciative makes you a lot happier than not. Yeah,
because we obviously live in a culture and society where getting the new nice thing is always promoted, and it's you can't be happy until you get this, and it's simply not true. Because as you just said, when you're grateful for the things you have, whether it is a lot of things or just not a lot, or small things. It's like the little things count, and it's just you being grateful for that one person, that one thing in your life, like that can change your mood for an entire day.
Yeah, literally.
And it just, instead of, and you can, of course, you can have your wants and your desires. If you want a nice car and you're really into cars and stuff, like, there's nothing wrong with pursuing that.
Yeah.
But the moment you feel that you need that to be happy, that's where you're fucked.
I completely agree. People chase things, and they're like, that's where like social media and societal problems come in. It's like people, I don't know if people really even want these things so much. It's just they want to be like the top dog.
Yeah.
Like you want to drive the nicest Corvette. You don't want to, you want to drive the nicest Corvette. You want to have the nicest house. People who own houses that have like 10 bedrooms, and it's like them and their husband or them and their wife, and like, look, why do you need that house?
Right.
It's literally just to show dominance.
Yeah.
And that's like a human trait, I get that. But it's also a societal trait where it's like, we're just competitive and we're taught to compete against each other in a way. And compete against ourselves. I think it's good to compete against yourself, but we're taught to live in a competition against each other to get those things and to be bigger than everybody else. And those people aren't actually happy. Yeah. Genuinely. Like when I used to work for DoorDash, I noticed the smaller houses was giving the smaller houses, and those people were nicer and gave me better tips. When I went to the richy neighborhoods and the really rich people would come, I'm like, yeah, I obviously get a nice one here and there. There'd be people that would be appreciative, but they never gave me the best tips. They would be kind of just like more, just to themselves and everything, and like that's a problem. Yeah,
I think a lot of people with different social statuses will kind of hone themselves off from other people. Like, for example, if you don't have that money, if you don't have a lot of money, you might look at rich people and be like, oh, they're all assholes. And then if you're rich, you might look at people who don't have as much as you and be like, oh no, I can't be with them, they're not enough.
Exactly,
stuff. Yeah. And the mindset of that, just like the mindset of so much other stuff in society, is just division. And
they want us to be divided.
Exactly.
So you control society.
Exactly. And the division is, I think it's more, I've only been alive for 19 years, but I think it's worse than it probably ever has before in the recent times preceding ours. Stuff like that. It's just...
Yeah, it's all about labeling, I feel like.
Yeah.
They like to label everything.
Yeah.
People need to be victims. People that we don't know that are the true criminals. And I feel like I believe that there's people above, even like the president. Like people that are in government or people who are in this country or in the country, just the world. Like everything is just under control. Like the food we eat, the stuff we learn, we have the illusion, I believe, that we elect people to get problems solved that really aren't the important problems.
Yeah.
Because nothing is fundamentally changing.
Exactly.
And all it is just like black and white and Asian and Indian and like Hispanic. But they want to make us all just seem so different.
Right.
Everybody's just unique. Everybody has their own unique identity.
Yeah.
And if there's cultures, there's cultures. But they want us to literally hate each other's culture.
Yeah.
And there's never really, like, it's just, when they want us to label each other and see each other as different, it's much harder to get along.
Yeah. And it's a lot of the time, I think, it's trying to focus on these problems when we should be working on the problems that are up here.
But they don't want us to see those.
Exactly. And since they don't want us to see it, we don't. I mean, you just take something as simple. I was talking about this with a few people the other day. The Food and Drug Administration. Everyone's like, oh, it's FDA approved. That means it's fine, right? Over 50% of the funding for the FDA is from the big corporations. Yeah. So I think about that as, if I'm a big corporation, I want to put some fucking horrible shit in my food and have the public not know about it. You're like, all right, we're gonna put all these labels on the nutrition label, but then we have this one bad thing in it that's really bad. FDA, can you just leave that out? Yeah, you supply us with 50% of our shit, so yeah, sure, we'll leave it out.
And they're like, just as much as it fits the criteria, like if it's not 49%, it has to be 48%, like in there, like, because that's not seemed as bad, but over time, if you constantly eat these things, like, there are so many ingredients in what we eat, and people, like, it's like, it limits your brain too. Like, people just are consumed in just buying like cheaper food and processed food because it's easier and it's faster. But I'm like, my roommates or people will be like, you spend so much money on food. I'm like, of course I spend so much money on food. I'm like, I want to put the best things in my body. And when you put those things in your body, like, you will feel so much better. You'll be able to think way much more clear, and you'll be able to genuinely feel and see what's right. Yeah. And it's like, a lot of people aren't really educated enough to, I feel like, to want to eat this food. Yeah. They don't care enough, and they should care. I think that's something people should care about. Like, all this fat stuff going on in the country, like, not to get on that topic, but like, I feel like people look at people who are overweight and say there's nothing wrong with it, when I feel like there is something wrong with it.
Well, I mean, fundamentally, it's understood just from a health standpoint that if you're obese, for example, of course that's unhealthy.
Exactly.
You
that's
should be
more coming from. Exactly.
Right. And yeah, I mean, the whole thing about the accepting of that is, the way I see it is like, yeah, you should accept, if somebody's obese, like, yeah, you should accept them as a human being and accept them as a person and stuff. But you should also, that person should try to have the mindset of working like, okay, I want to become skinnier, I want to become healthier, instead of, this is the way I am and I'm going to stay that way. Because if I've never been really overweight, right? So I'm not speaking from experience. But if I imagine myself being overweight, I feel like I'd be miserable.
Yeah, you probably don't feel, I can't imagine you feel genuinely good.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. It's like, people have issues. There are genuinely, like, problems that people's bodies may have that makes them like that way. But in the end, it kind of makes no sense, because, like, it's all about just making people feel good. But I'm like, in a certain amount of time, these people are going to have problems that they're going to be really upset that they have. Heart disease, blood clots, there's stuff that doesn't do good for your body. Yeah. And then when you're older and you're overweight and you're, like, dying and you're, like, at, like, 50 years old, you're going to be like, I wish I didn't do this.
Right.
And it's just, we don't need to be mean to those people.
Oh, yeah, of course not.
Everybody's great, but, like, for the most part. But I think it's good to guide people. I think it's smart to guide people who are a little overweight, maybe, to that direction, to just eat healthier. Just try to get more activity in their day, not just, like, why do you want people to be overweight? Why do you want our country? Our country is one of the most overweight, obese countries in the world. Yeah. And that's kind of weird that it's promoted.
Yeah, and it's just, there's so many things that are promoted, and I think nowadays a lot of stuff that's promoted is you believing in what you believe in and not have an open mind and accepting that you're wrong. Like, there is a respect thing, and, like, if I look at you and you believe something that I disagree with, but you're like, you don't let what I say, like, change it, and, like, you're set on that, like, that can be a respectable trait. But when everything you believe is, this is my set core, not core, but it's just set of beliefs on a certain thing, and you just, even if you are wrong, you can't accept that, that's a problem. Yeah. But it's promoted to just look at the other person and be like, no, you're wrong, and that's just not, the way I look at life is, I'm always looking for the truth in everything. If it's an ugly truth, if it's a beautiful truth, whatever it is, I want the truth. And we don't want the truth nowadays. We want the blind, pleasurable stuff, the sugar-coated stuff. Mm-hmm. And down the line, I mean, we're not quite seeing it yet, but this is going to be detrimental for society. Like, things are going to tank.
I agree.
But to get off of the little negative topics, let's move on a little bit to stuff such as manifestation. So this is, I want to say, when you first hear about something like manifestation, you think to yourself, is this real? Is this even possible? Because it's like, you thinking about this, or you doing a certain method, and then, like, it coming true. Like, that's not how things work, right? But then you do some more research and you try some things out yourself, and you realize, like, okay, this world isn't exactly what I thought it to be, and there are more things going on that I'm not aware of, and other things that I can do to put myself and other people in a better place. And to connect it to social media a little bit, that I talked about with you before, is a lot of what social media has done, especially with spirituality and the manifestation type stuff, is it's dumbed us down, because you look at TikTok, for example, nowadays, and social media with it. When you talk about spirituality on TikTok, it's the manifestation type stuff is how to manifest your ex-girlfriend back, or how to do this, and it's just this negative shit, and it's like, you could be using this for something so much more powerful and so much more beneficial for yourself, yet you're dumbing it down. In a sense, I guess you're dumbing it down so that most people can understand it, but at the same time, spirituality has become a trend, and the whole thing, I don't know what your opinion is on the whole astrology stuff, but I haven't like researched and got really into it. But when I hear all these girls online say, if you're not this sign, then you're not compatible with me. Like, for you to judge someone based off of their astrology sign, I think that's just fucking stupid.
Yeah, I agree that it has become a trend, and that's the thing. I feel like spirituality kind of finds you, and I feel like a lot of people want to be that way, and you could be that way. Like, manifestation is real, I believe, but I agree. Like, I feel like people take it to, this is something that needs to flow. There's no rules to this. There's not like you have to do this, or it's your own rules, it's your own words, how you feel, and it's just what it is. And people just force this behavior on themselves, and they force their minds to believe, or they kind of program their minds to believe, like, that they can't be with a Taurus, or they can't be with a Gemini. Like I think it's kind of crazy too. And you just gotta experience the person.
Yeah.
And if you don't like them, you just don't like them. If you do have a connection with them, you have a great connection with them. Like, I think it's just something that it kind of needs to find you as well.
Right.
And it needs to be it's a very freeing thing. I used to be kind of like, I can't say I grew up in a Christian or Catholic household. Like, that was like, we weren't praying all the time. Like, my parents pray, and like, we don't go to church anymore or anything like that, but we used to for like holidays and stuff like that, and here and there. And I think growing up like that, I didn't like the rules. I didn't like that I would always designate myself to do something thinking about the afterlife. I'd be like, if I do this, I'm a bad person, and I'm going to hell. If I do this, I'm a good person. Then am I really a good person? Am I really a bad person? Like, you don't know who you really are, because you're doing actions on behalf of something else. And I feel like a lot of people who are kind of like that, there's nothing really wrong with it. It's just more a safe ground. And that's kind of like, I feel like the saying kind of like, it's not saying all religion is wrong. I think all religion is right together. I think there's one universal like idea that is one universal truth that is just expanded into all these subcategories of religion, but that's a problem. It's just a very freeing thing, and people try so hard to like be spiritual or have these spiritual things come out, like you just said, like how you said, like to manifest, like you can't have your ex-girlfriend back, or like it's just that's not what's important.
Right.
It's just the flow.
Yeah, and I really liked what you said about it, kind of finding you, and not. I guess it's based on subjective experience. Someone might stumble upon something that then gets them to do that. But
of course, yeah.
But overall, in my experience, and obviously in yours, it's kind of found us and made us a better person as a result.
Exactly.
And not to touch on religion as a whole, but both of us, we'd like to study different religions and then take our own viewpoints on things. One, I was actually talking with one of my roommates yesterday about religion and stuff like that, and he was telling me that one of his buddies he was never religious, but he's met a few people that are like Catholic or Christian here, and now he's becoming religious, right? And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
So you're listening to that, and then he says, but the reason he's becoming religious is because he's very scared of what's going to happen after he dies. And the way I view that is, I don't think you should, not that you shouldn't look to learn about a religion, but I don't think you should be like, okay, I need to believe in this religion because I'm scared of what is going to happen to me after I die. Because a lot of these religions, they're preaching love, right? But if you try to get someone to join your religion based out of fear, of course that's not love. That's the opposite of what your God is supposed to be doing. So I think doing anything, doing a lot of things out of fear is always going to not really get you where you're supposed to be, in a sense.
Yeah, I agree.
And then, we can move on a little bit.
It's like it sucks because I don't want to sound like I'm shitting on religion.
Right, exactly.
I know you feel the same way. It's a tough subject to talk about.
Yeah,
because there are billions of people in the world and millions are religious.
Yeah.
And but I think deep down, in the end, everybody kind of is on the same page in some way. Most people are on the same page in some way. And I'm not crapping on religion. It's just, I feel like it is limiting in a way. There's, you're setting all your this may be your one life in this body. Well, it is your one life in this body, and you're setting yourself rules that I feel like you didn't create. You kind of got given these rules, and you want to follow them because I feel like all they kind of go to is death and what's after death, and you want to be a good person to get to the afterlife, and it be a good afterlife, but you just don't know what's there. Yeah. And no matter what it is, this is what is now. The only thing that exists is this moment. Yeah. And people need to realize that because people are living in a future that doesn't even exist. They're living by rules that they didn't create. And like you said, they are doing it out of fear, I feel like. Not everybody. Yeah. And I like to hear people who are religious and they get but in terms of death, I feel like that also, that plays a big role in how they feel.
Yeah, and to a degree, it's understandable. Yeah. Because you think, you just put yourself in the mindset of that person. Okay, if I don't do these things, I'm gonna suffer for eternity. That's a really scary concept. Yeah. And the problem that I see with some of the religion is like I just said, people are blindly believing in things. Like for example, there's some people that are religious that I talk to and I had this experience and I feel as though God or Jesus found me. And to that, it's okay, I can understand that. But for the people who are just doing it purely based out of fear, it's I don't even know how to put it into words. It's just a feeling that it's I feel like you're not doing this for the right purpose.
Yeah, the answers are always within yourself. And if you look within yourself, you're gonna find whatever answers you need. And people want to look on the outside, and it's tough. You always want to just look at if you see somebody going through the same problems that you're going through, it is way easier to figure out their solution. It could be the exact same issue, but if they're going through the breakup and you're going through the kind of very similar breakup situation, for example, giving them advice is much more easy. Yeah. Because when you're looking within yourself, it's there's something that blocks you from doing it. You gotta be strong enough to just not always look with the outside, but look within.
Yeah, and it's hard to let go in general.
Oh, yeah.
And just to let go of beliefs that you've held for so long. Yeah. And then try to change those things. In terms of death, I don't have any set beliefs on what I think happens and stuff like that. I just kind of think about things in different perspectives. As of right now, I don't really think there's a heaven and hell in terms of Christianity and stuff like that set belief. But I when I look at things such as reincarnation and stuff like that, I see that and it's very everything, heaven and hell, everything is very interesting. And I try to think about the different possibilities and stuff. And I know that this body isn't exactly me. There's whether you want to call it a soul, your being, whatever label you want to give it. Yeah. There's something that's you, that's beyond your personality and beyond this body.
I agree.
And this life experience. So as for what happens to that or to the real you after this body is gone, I don't have the answer to that. But it's always I enjoy looking at the different possibilities. But one of the things that I think about, and or that I've observed is like a lot of people are like they either believe the most common beliefs in the West are it's either people believe that it's heaven or hell when you die, or they believe in like, oh, it's just black, it's just nothing.
Right.
When I think about that, and you're like, okay, it's just black, and people say it's black, it's nothing, but black is something.
Yeah.
And the concept of nothingness, I don't think the human brain can comprehend what that is.
Yeah.
Because you think of nothingness, you're like, oh, it's just a black screen, but a black screen is something.
Yeah.
So
it's like looking at a static TV.
Right. Like you're like, oh, there's nothing on there. There's nothing playing on the TV, but there is.
Yeah, there is.
But I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what your opinions are on beliefs.
Death is very interesting. Death has always interested me as well, and I've experienced I've seen I've seen my grandparents dying, and I've seen through these people in my life dying. That I don't believe that they die and they're gone forever. I don't believe that there's nothing. I believe there's something, and I believe we probably have we've maybe lived more than one life, but all I know is, not what I know, but all I believe is that we are just here to learn. And this is magic. We're here right now and talking, we're conscious of it.
Exactly.
Look at us, what is this?
Yeah.
So when you die, people think, what happens when you die? Where were we before we were born?
Exactly.
What were we?
Exactly.
We had to be somewhere. I mean,
yeah.
we were just poof,
right.
And the sperm and egg and everything, but where'd that come from?
Yeah.
And I believe everything's energy. So I believe it's like when you walk into a room, right? You can feel the sadness sometimes. If you walk into a room where somebody just went through a breakup, a couple people did, whatever, and you could feel that, you just kind of feel a little tension, oh, it seems sad in here.
Yeah.
Or you can walk into a room where this family just won the lottery, and you're like, holy shit,
yeah.
this is, let's go party, everybody's hyped up, you feel it, so I believe the energy is always there, and whether you die or not, you become something. A plant die, like how the season changed, for example.
Yeah.
I always watch the season change from where I'm from in New Jersey, so we watch the trees blossom in the spring, become green in the summer, and then the fall they fall, yeah. And then in the winter everything's dead, and then it comes back in the spring again. All that falls, goes into the ground, and creates more life. That same energy, those leaves fall into the ground and they may be dead, but their energy is being created into something more eventually life again. And I feel like people may think it's crazy because it's hard to experience. I mean, it's hard to put it to words because not everybody really has experienced it. But I've had my fair share of experiencing extraterrestrial or not alien, obviously, not extraterrestrial like that, but what's the right word?
Just something that is beyond that you can't really explain.
Exactly. In my house at home, in Jersey, since I was a kid. I'll start with this one because actually it's a good way to start, I think. When my great grandma died, we called her Nana Faye. She was obsessed with me. She loved me. And I was only 2 years old or something when she died, I think. And there's a lot of grandkids. I have a lot of cousins. And she just was oh, I love them all, but something about Kevin. I love Kevin. And there's just something different.
Oh. So
when she died, my mom heard me talking in my room, and she walked in, and she's like, "Oh, who are you talking to?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm playing car." I was playing Matchbox cars. I'm like, "Oh, I'm playing with Nana Faye. Don't you see her?" And my mom, when she told me that story, I've heard that story many times, but come on, I don't remember that, but I clearly, people are like, oh, you're a kid, you're imagining things, but if she said I was serious, she's like, I'm don't you see her? She's right there. I think kids and animals and stuff are on a different frequency where they're not so conditioned in society, and when you're not conditioned, you are literally vibing higher.
Yeah.
You're on a higher energy level. You're more pure, and when you're more pure, you can see things that aren't capable of the human eye. And that's why I feel through my spiritual quest and things I've seen shadows in my house. I've seen things break. I've I've experienced good things in my house at home, and I've experienced very negative things in my house at home. Things I can't explain. And like, what makes me believe that it's all real is I've just experienced it. And people will watch this and people will talk to me and be like, what the fuck are you talking about? You know, like he's crazy. Anybody can call me whatever they want. You know, like it's there.
Yeah.
And I believe it's not heaven's up in the sky and hell's below the ground. It's here. You know, it's all around us. Like their beings are here, whether they're positive or negative, whether they're the bad thoughts in your mind or the good thoughts in your mind. Like they're there. And so I think you become. I don't know. I don't know exactly what you do afterwards, but I think everything's energy. I don't think your soul dies ever.
Yeah.
I think it's just like a source or something.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And as for the children and animals being on a different frequency, I think, yeah, when you're not conditioned, you're free to experience the things that none of us at this age and at this mind frequency or state, like we just maybe there is a way, but that we haven't found, but as of right now we can't experience that. And I've heard all this talk about different dimensions and different levels of things, and it's just there's people on different, not exactly people exactly that I know of, but people or beings that are on different planes and stuff that are here, but because of the way we perceive the world and the way our mind works, we cannot see that. We cannot feel it. Yeah. Like with our senses, we can't experience it. It's just not possible.
Yeah.
And maybe when you die, you go to one of those different planes or those different experiences and stuff like that.
I think people also are so afraid because it's scary.
Yeah.
And like a quick little story, like I've seen here, and actually when I moved to Florida, I started experiencing like weird stuff in my apartment, and I like to talk about these type of things because I wasn't completely alone when I experienced them. Like, for example, I was at the FAU gym, and I'm walking. This was when I was kind of going through like an interesting time period, like whatever. So I'm squatting, and I'm walking past the squat rack that I'm on, not touching any weights. I'm going to change the weight, but I have nothing on me. I'm literally just walking around it. A 5-pound weight out of nowhere just goes flying down, and I was like, what the fuck? I turned around and the girl behind me was like, what the hell was that? I was like, I'm so happy you just saw that too. I'm like, I'm not going crazy, right? She's like, no, I saw that too. That was insane. I was like, thank you for seeing that. Thank God you saw that. Because it was just insane to me. A couple days later go by. I'm watching Breaking Bad. I'm eating dinner. I'm watching my TV. And I have a new water bottle on my bed. It's just that I bought on a website. And there's this ring around it, right? It's like a bigger one. I'm watching TV, man. I'm literally telling you. And this ring, I'll show you exactly what it did. It's on my bed, far away from me. It just gets tossed across my room. I literally just, I just jumped up and I walked into my room. I was freaked out.
Yeah.
It is a freaky thing. Whether people, it's always freaky, even for people who are mediums or spiritual and really can talk to them. Like, it's still something that's always kind of like, raises the hair on your arm and stuff. Like, and I ended up figuring out, I think, what it was. But it's all about being open to it. And I feel like I wasn't so like, it was freaky, but being open to it has allowed me to have experiences like that all the time throughout my life. Like and I love talking about that type of stuff because it's just so, it's one of the most fascinating things to me how I've felt things. Like I literally felt this one day, like at my house, I felt like tickling on my neck. And I didn't feel bad about it, honestly. I didn't feel scared or freaked out. I was just like, like, what is that? Like, And the next morning, I walked downstairs and I was wondering, who could that have been? And I see my dad doing the same thing to my mom. And this was like 2 years ago. And as I walk in the kitchen in the morning, he's doing that to her, and she's like, stop it, Nana Faye. And that goes back to that. And I'm like, and I literally looked at him, I'm like, that's exactly what I felt like. That's crazy. Like, so I believe it's there, and they watch over you, or they are against you, or I completely believe in good and evil. But it's like, people don't want to see it. even if they do see it. People see things that they can't explain, and I think it's really hard for them to cope with it and be like, to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I feel like, going back to the purity thing, like, that's why kids and animals, I feel like they whoever they are, like, they say, like, they could see it more. You know?
Yeah. And
it's crazy.
and then you just go and think about, like, how is that stuff possible? But then you think even bigger, and how is anything possible? How are we even here right now? How are we even talking to each other? How did we even create language? How did the brain evolve to the state it's in, or what did it really start as? Yeah. And it's just, we have so many of these what ifs and like questions that we don't have answers to, and there's so many things and people in society that are always trying to tell you what the answer is, even though they might not know what it is.
They don't know what it is.
And it's just, and of course it's to get people to be comfortable and be like, okay, this is what it is, I know what it is. Because as a human being, and as the human mind fears what it does not understand. Mm-hmm. So when you don't understand something and you're scared about it, but then someone tells you what it is, even if it's not right, you can choose to believe that and be like, oh yeah, this makes sense to me. This is the reasoning why this happened, or why this experience is, and it gives you a reason to believe and to feel okay. So as the human mind being the way it is and wanting to be comfortable and know what the answers are, it's comforting.
It is.
To feel like you know everything, even though nobody obviously does.
And as much as we could feel it, like, I feel like this kind of makes you feel it easily, and like you get to feel things more. Like, you can feel the right things. I feel like you know what's right.
Yeah.
More, but how do we really know? Like, I think psychedelics are interesting, honestly. I think what psychedelics do is, I mean, if you abuse it, like anything else, obviously it's gonna fuck your brain up.
Yeah.
But I think psychedelics expand the consciousness a lot. And I always see like theories like the monkeys ate it, like one day they was eating cow poop and like mushrooms with spores and stuff, and like they started expanding it, and like whatever is true or not, like we are very aware of just a very small amount of history. And the history we know is skewed, biased. It's we're not really sure.
Yeah.
And I think people don't want to go down that road. Like, it's crazy. Like we're so used to just going to work and going to school and like going to like do these things, and we're passing by everything that's going on.
Yeah.
And then you get to a point where you're dying, and you're like, I guarantee you, for some reason I feel like a really strong sense of what it feels like to die. I've always just felt that. So that's why I feel like it is easier to understand and appreciative in my perspective, because I feel like for the people who've lived a life of lies or lived a life of illusion and don't really see this and don't want to see it, they get to the deathbed and then they wake up. And right before they're dead, right before they're dying, they're like, I'm gonna die right now. Like, I'm literally about to leave this planet and never see these people like this way, at least again. I'm never gonna be Kevin again. Like, I'm not gonna be Kevin forever. I'm gonna die one day. And I guarantee those people who on their deathbeds realize it. And you realize, I wish I didn't work so hard. I wish I didn't miss out on these things. Like last time I took mushrooms with my friends last December, and I wasn't gonna go home that long for Christmas break because of work. And I took this, and I'm like, something was holding me down so long. And when I took it, I just started crying and crying and crying, and all these emotions came out, and I realized, oh my God, like, my family's not gonna be here forever. I never see my family. Like, what the hell am I gonna go back to work for? Like, do I really need this money? Like, no, I don't need this money. It's money. My family's not here forever. So I went home, I called my job the next day, and I was like, listen, I'm going home longer. Like, I kind of fucked them over a little bit, but I was like, I don't care. I need to do what's best for me.
Right.
My boss was really nice and understanding about it, but at the same time, I needed to go home for a couple weeks. Like, it was like an extra week only, but just seeing them for that extra week was so much happier for me, because those people aren't here forever. Our parents are not going to be here forever.
Yeah.
Grandparents are not going to be here forever. We're not going to be here forever. Like, that's what's important.
Yeah.
And we look past that as a society.
Right.
And I think we're forced to look past it because they don't want us to look at it.
Exactly.
That makes people live. But people are, I always say this, people are just alive, they're not living.
Exactly. Because once you have those thoughts and look at the world differently, you start to question, okay, why am I working this job that I don't like? Why am I living my life this way? And then that will fuck up things for the government and the way society works. So of course they don't want you to think that way.
Completely.
And I haven't done any psychedelics or anything, but having done my research and everything, I think a huge, maybe it's the only reason, but I think at least it's a massive reason as to why they're illegal, is because it allows you to wake up and see things differently, and the government, they don't want you to see things that way.
Completely. And I think it's a great point. I think government and the world, whoever runs it, is, you want a complacent and a compliant society. You want people to be fearful. You want people to be distracted by things that they think they need to be worried about. And it's like, we don't need half the shit we have in our lives.
Exactly.
We don't need most of the shit we have in our lives. And we're really conscious people, like beings. Like we're really aware. Like we're not as natural as everything else is.
Mm.
We've kind of stepped away from nature because nature kind of just flows.
Yeah.
And we kind of manipulate nature.
Yeah.
Like we manipulate ourselves because we could program ourselves
Right.
like robots. Like it's cool,
Yeah.
but like it's
Yeah, and you just, as for the so many technological advancements and just advancements of society in general, as much as we want to look at that and say how far we've come, in so many ways it's set us back too. Because, for example, just a creation like social media, you'll just look at yourself and look at other people scrolling on something for hours, and you just look around you and just look at the world,
mm-hmm.
and it's just like, you look at yourself after you scroll for an hour, you're like, what the fuck have I been doing with
it's
my life?
fucking annoying. It sucks. You feel like shit.
And it's just,
and you realize it.
and that goes along with the programming. Like you get addicted to this stuff.
Yeah.
And they're distractions to what you in the back of your mind feel like you should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, this is easier, so I'm gonna do this now because it's easier, and it's just it takes me out of. I don't need to think deeply about things. I don't need to worry about anything because we live in such an age. We live in an age of anxiety, and anything we can do to get out of that anxious state, we'll do.
Mm-hmm.
Because most of us live our lives anxious 99% of the time. So that 1% that we can get to not be anxious, we're taking that. So.
It's the truth, man. People, and it's all like bullshit on there too. Like, it's usually like the hottest girls. I'm like they'll come up in like your TikTok or like your Instagram and like unrealistic stuff.
Uh-huh.
Like obviously there's beautiful girls out there, but if you have like, I have a girlfriend for example, and I love her to death, and no matter what, I'm an honest person. I'm a human being and I'm a guy. Biologically, bro, like we want to fuck around. Like we want to you want to mate.
Right.
And then you also have the brain coming in, and that's able to love.
Yeah. And
the soul is able to love. So the soul is just that. The soul is love.
Yeah.
And it's tough because it's like those type of like that reality like has caused problems in our relationship where I'm like, I'm not sure what I want. Like I don't know what I want. Like we're in college, we're so young, and we got past all that bullshit, which is great. And she's like my happiest person in my life, and I love her. But when we had our issues, it was because of that alternate reality that is pushed in your face.
Right.
It was immediate satisfaction, not long-term satisfaction. It's like that, along with like just drugs and stuff like that too. Like, I don't smoke as much as I used to at all, but I think weed is good every once in a while. But main point is like, along with the social media aspect of it, like it's an alternate reality.
Yeah.
And everybody wants to live in a certain way. They want the hottest girls. They want, in terms of guys, they want the hottest girls, or the girls want, the most loving boyfriend in the entire world, the picture perfect man. And they want a perfect house and the perfect dog, and that's okay. Like I want a nice house, I want a nice dog, and I want to be happy with my girlfriend. I would love to move to like Costa Rica with her and just and get out of here. But that's different. I feel like people chase things that aren't actually, like, go back to the beginning of a conversation. They're not authentic. It's a different reality that social media has showed them that they just want to keep scrolling and they love it. They program their brain to think that this is life. When once you leave your phone behind and you go out, you feel a different way. If you go out, almost done with time. When you go out without your phone and put your phone down and just leave it at home, your day is going to be completely different. You will be thinking clearer. You'll be way more in the present, and it's just like, you just want to be the present. Like, phones are good, but they also suck.
Yeah, like it puts you in a different state of consciousness and awareness, and it can limit that awareness. I don't know how many people I'm walking and they're looking down on their phone and they almost walk into me, and I made it a habit to specifically keep walking to see if they acknowledge that they're about to walk into someone, just for the hell of it. And it's just these types of things. You can do a lot of important things on your phone, but it's the main thing that it's done is it's taken us away from reality, and it's giving us this illusion of what's real, which isn't. Yeah. And it's not that those high standards that you have are unattainable. It's just sometimes
they're not your standards.
Yeah, right? and like you want that, but you're not willing to put in the effort in reality to get that. Like, you want the hottest girl and the most loving girlfriend, but all you do is sit around all day, play video games, and do nothing with your life. Mm-hmm. You can't expect to have something or someone like that when you're not putting in the effort. Mm-hmm. There's, like, with manifestation, stuff like that, like there's a degree that you don't have to physically go into the world and do something specifically and you can make something happen, but there's also the degree of, like, okay, there's the manifestation type aspect, but you also have to actually do something in your life to get whatever that is.
Exactly. You put effort in.
Yeah.
And that's why I hate lazy people. Honestly, I can't stand lazy people, because people who are lazy and expect everything just to be handed to them are kind of selfish, and it's just not the right mindset. Yeah. And I can't even blame people for the way they act, because everybody acts a certain way for a specific reason, mm-hmm. whether it be how they're raised or the environment they're growing up in. Like, there's literally no one's really the way they are when they're older. Like, I think you got to break down your own society, your own things that society's put on you, and like your parents have put on you, and reality's put on you. But I think if you focus on, like, just all that, like, I don't know, it's just.
I know what you're saying.
It's things like you got to put the effort in.
Yeah.
And you can't expect it. Like, it's just this reality is just, kids our age are just, I think they're not really aware of the real world.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
whatever the real world may be, like.
Yeah. It's just this. We're always, especially at this age, we're always just seeking the short-term pleasure, mm-hmm. just because. And I think a lot of it has to do with, like, a lot of us aren't living our day-to-day lives the way we want to. So that's doing those things is like an escape to make us feel good about ourselves and stuff like that. And to a degree, it's like, it's understandable. Like, you can't always blame people for that. Like, you can relate to it, but in the grand scheme of things, it's you have to figure out what you want and just do it.
Yeah.
Instead of just sitting around and because if we sit around and expect everything to come to us, like, our entire life is going to go by, and we're not going to ever realize what kind of relationships we could have had or what kind of person we could have made ourselves into. And it's like that's the huge thing about, I mean, people in general, but when I think about, like, being a man, like, just doing something like going to the gym, like, how can you go through your entire life and not see what your body is capable of? It's just things like that I look at, and it's like,
awesome.
Like, it's just you working out and just doing things for yourself, and then things in turn for other people. It's gonna make everything better. And we gotta wrap up in a minute, but I remember one of the things that you reminded me of before, of when you were taking the psychedelics and, like, realizing, like, the self and everything. I remember one time sitting on the porch with one of my friends, and I was just looking at my hands, and I was like, I have fingers. This is crazy. Like, how does this even exist?
the hands are magical. When you look at your hands, man, you just stare at your hands and literally just, it's like you're at a club. This is a good example, I think. You're at a club or you're at a party or you're out with a bunch of things and a lot of things are going on, no matter where you are, festival, whatever. If you just stop in the middle of it and just look around and be like, and while everybody's still doing their own thing, and you just stop, you're kind of in your own world again, and you're looking around like, what is this?
Yeah.
Like, if you could just stop for every once in a while and just look around and look at everything, I think that will change a lot of people's lives. I think that will make them just a little bit here and there more aware. Because awareness is the strongest feeling, and freedom is a lonely road.
And consciousness is awareness. Like, you are consciousness, and awareness is your life.
Mm-hmm.
So without that, without being aware, you're taking so much away from yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. And true freedom is like Calvin Harris was a singer, or not a singer, he's like a DJ guy, but he has a song called Under Control, and I'll say the last thing. When he says freedom is a lonely road, it always sticks out to me because true freedom, not too many people, I feel like, truly feel that freedom.
Yeah. We'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya.